welcome to NameHero. I'm Ryan, the founder and CEO. In this video tutorial, I want to talk about how to set up a cPanel highly available DNS cluster. So if you've ever deployed a cPanel VPS, then you know that you can take advantage of their powerful DNS clustering feature. So basically, when you have a VPS and it runs cPanel/Web Host Manager, it runs its own DNS server on it. And so when you load up your websites, it actually calls that to resolve them. And if that server VPS goes offline, then of course your whole website and stuff goes down. If you want to make that highly available, you can cluster it with another VPS and they'll actually share those named servers. So if one of them goes offline, the other one's going to be there to pick up the slack. Now, don't confuse this. It's not a fully highly available solution in regards to your actual website. If you want your website to be fully highly available, that's a whole other discussion, and we'll save that for another tutorial. However, when you have a DNS cluster set up, you can easily migrate websites from one node to another node without any downtime, and it seamlessly can happen. It can even automatically happen using cPanel's transfer tool. So DNS clusters, Web Host Manager, cPanel install VPSs that are clustered together, they're great solutions for those of you out there that are offering your customers web hosting. You know, maybe you're a reseller and you're using us here at NameHero, or even another provider out there, because you can move sites around based on the resources of that VPS. For example, let's say you have a website on your VPS and it's approaching the holiday shopping season, and maybe it's a customer's or maybe it's even your own. And you know that it's going to really get a lot of traffic for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you know, the shopping season, big sales. And you want to scale up your VPS for that one website, but you don't want to scale everyone. You know, maybe as a customer and they've paid a specific amount, but not everyone, and you don't want to scale your entire VPS. Well, what you can do is you can easily deploy another VPS, cluster them together DNS-wise, and then you can seamlessly transfer that one cPanel account over to the new server and there's no downtime, because since they're DNS clustered, it just picks up that DNS record and it brings it over to the next server. And using cPanel's transfer feature, you'll actually move all those files over with it as well. So it's all this seamless, easy process. You know, they've changed up, cPanel Web Host Managers changed up their themes so many times. There's not a lot of information out there using their latest themes. So I wanted to get this video on out there. I know we had some questions actually on our YouTube channel here regarding this. So that's specifically what prompted me to get on this. So if you're not familiar with NameHero, this is our website, and today I'm going to demonstrate with two of our VPSs here. Now, these same instructions, they lie true for any Web Host Manager cPanel instance out there. So if you're not using NameHero, this video can still apply to you. If you are looking for a host, you know, we certainly offer fully managed cPanel Web Host Manager VPSs at NameHero. And today I'm going to test with two of these 2 GB cloud VPSs. You know, these are great VPSs for development purposes. You know, me personally, I wouldn't run a 2 gig of RAM VPS on a production site unless it was really small, because, you know, 2 gigs of RAM is quite small in itself. And even cPanel from the docs, they recommend at least 4 gigs. You know, so for production use, I would recommend kind of going up here. However, if you just have one site on it, and then especially if you set up the DNS clustering and you offload some other stuff, if you start to reach your 2 gig memory limit, then you can make this work as well. Because essentially having 2 gigabytes, you essentially have 4, you know, if you combine them together. So anyways, this is the product that I'm going to demonstrate with today. But again, this video is not specific to just NameHero. This is cPanel's documentations on the DNS cluster. Now, a lot of the stuff I'm going to go over in this tutorial, it stems from this. So if you're looking for more information, this is a really good resource. And I'll also put some information inside the description of this video, so you can find the link to this as well as some more information about clustering if you decide to go that route. But in this video, I'm going to take an example or demo domain. I'm going to set it up on the VPS, and then I'm going to set up this whole highly available DNS cluster so you can easily see how it's done. And it's also not complicated. I know, you know, some people might get a little intimidated when we were talking about DNS, but it's actually really, really simple. So I'll show you. Just hang with me here in this video, and by the end of it, you should be a master at DNS clustering with cPanel Web Host Manager. So I've got these two. I've got my NameHero interface pulled up. If you're going to follow along and maybe you're using us at NameHero, feel free to pause this video and log into your account. I kind of want to jump right into this. But I've got this 2 gig VPS. And so this is VPS 47220 at nodevm.com. And then I've got another one here, which is 43886. So they're two identical VPSs, besides the host names are different because they're different services. And I'm already logged into Web Host Manager. So if you are following along, I think it'd be a good idea to have Web Host Manager loaded up for each of your VPSs, so then we can jump right in. Okay, so I'm going to start off with 47220, so it's this one right here. And it's really irrelevant in which order we do these in. If you already have an existing cluster set up, then of course that's going to make a big difference, so make sure you're mindful of that. But as soon as you log into Web Host Manager, you'll notice DNS cluster. So I can click right here, and you can see it's disabled. So the first thing I want to do is I want to enable the DNS cluster. Enabled, return to cluster status. Okay, so now it's enabled, and I can begin to set it up. I want to go over to my other one, click DNS cluster, and you can also find this here. If you do the search, you can go DNS, and you just type in some of it, and you'll see the DNS clusters there as well. So I want to enable it for this server. Okay, so now DNS clustering is enabled on both servers, and we'll go back to the first one here. And so the first thing we want to do is we want to set up an API key from Web Host Manager for the other server so we can seamlessly connect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down here, and you'll see a section, add a new server to the cluster. And you can see cPanel, and we can show all, which I don't have any other servers in here, but if you did, you would see them in there. But I'm going to click configure. Okay, so the first thing is I need to give it the DNS host. So I can go over here, and I can use my host name here, or I can use the IP address. It's really up to you how you want to do it. I'm just going to use the host name. So if we go right here, we'll choose that. If I wanted to use the IP, then again, that's completely appropriate as well. But I'm just go ahead and use this. What I want to do here is I want to use an API token. So I'm going to go to my second server, and I'm going to go to API, manage API tokens, and I need to generate a new one. I don't like to use the root password at all. So, I have root logins disabled for I'm security paranoid. So I don't recommend, inputting your root password in here. Even though this is secured and safe, if you change your root password, then you're going to break your cluster. So by generating an API token, then we can make sure everything is really safe and secure, and there's no chance of, a compromise. So I'm going to call this VPS 47220. Sorry, I'm typing wrong here. And you can't put a space in there, so I just put an underscore. We can call it DNS cluster. And you can put a whitelist IP. So if we wanted to, we can add the IP to this server in here, and that would fully lock it down. Now, since I'm doing a video demo here, I'm just going to not put a whitelisted IP in here, just in case I would run into a firewall issue. I don't want to have to go in to troubleshoot that, but feel free to do that, to add the IP address of this server into here, which means that only this server can access this API being called, or use this API token. It's also a very good security tip. All right, I'm going down here. So you can see by default, we have all this stuff here. We don't want to give it all these privileges, so start unticking them here. You don't want to give it all this. When you're using API keys, you only want to generate a key for the specific functions that you need. As you can see, these are pretty standard privileges, but still, you don't want to just be generating keys that have functions when it's not needed. One, it's overkill, but two, it's a security risk. So we're going to disable all this stuff. The only thing we need to do is be able to enable the DNS cluster feature. So we don't even need this DNS one here, because clustering is going to handle that. So we'll go on down here, and I'm just going to deselect. All right, clustering. So we want to give this feature here, but that's it. And certainly do not click the everything. That's full root access. You don't want to do that. Okay, save. All right, now I've got my token. This is the only time that you're going to see it. And so, after this video, I'm going to revoke this token because I know there's malicious people out there. But you want to copy this down. I've got a notepad document opened up here. So I just put a little note. in my notepad document. And I don't store this online either. So, I recommend taking this, putting it in a notepad document and printing it out, throw it in your desk drawer. And that way, it's safe and secure. You don't want to store these online unencrypted. If you have a password manager, you could store it inside of there. But remember, this is going to have access to that DNS cluster. So if a malicious actor got this, your DNS cluster could be in trouble. Your DNS could get hijacked and a bunch of other stuff. So we don't want that to happen. Okay, so we're going to go back over here. We can just use root still yet because it's using the API token. We're not using the root password. We're just going to use root as our user. Set up reverse trust relationship. This is going to be needed. Some clusters this is not, and you can go through the docs here in cPanel about how you want to set yours up. Really, a lot of this has to deal with if you're setting up like a DNS only server. You can set up a cPanel web host DNS only node that in the only feature of that is running DNS for your whole cluster. But I think that's quite a bit overkill for a lot of our customers or a lot of people I talk to. If you're just trying to cluster two VMs together, it's easy just to do it this way versus having a whole other dedicated VM just for the specific DNS cluster. Now, if you have a bunch of servers in your cluster, you might want to look at that route. Regardless, the steps are still very similar. It's just how we're going to set this up would be a little bit different. Okay, so I don't want to synchronize zones immediately. We can do that once we get things set up. But basically, I just want to set up this reverse trust relationship. And this is going to be a synchronized changes. So this is what depends on how many servers are in your cluster on how you want this set. Now, if you look in their documentation down here, they've got another article here that explains this a little bit better. And I guess this is on here, their guide to DNS clusters. We want these to be direct links, meaning that we want to be connected directly to the server in the cluster. We don't want to add an interim host in between this because that's going to cause DNS lookup delays. And so that gets a little complicated when we start talking about all of that. So I'm not going to go into like all these specifics behind this because I don't want to make this more complicated because it's really not. It's simple, but these are really more advanced options. If you're wanting to do like a lot of servers or a completely separate DNS node, then you want to read these through. Okay, so all we want to do is we want to make sure that the changes made, so synchronize means the changes made on this node will automatically reflect on your other node. If you're doing that DNS cluster, you do a standalone, but we're not getting into that right now on that host node. And then you could also do write only, where only the changes are written to this server, which again, that's not really a good idea either. But again, it depends on your case, so I don't want to misspeak or speak out of turn here. All right, so click submit. Alrighty, the trust relationship's established. It's now clustered together, and we're all set. So return to cluster status, and you can see we're connected. So if you have a green checkbox by this, you're good. Let's go look over here now. So, okay, we saved our token. Now let's go look at our DNS cluster here. DNS cluster. Here. And you can see your other server's automatically written inside of here. Okay, so now you can see this is all the changes made on 43886 is going to synchronize with this server. If I go over here and look, that this is a standalone node, meaning that this is going to be, our first one is going to be the master. So anything that happens on here will synchronize into here. But anything happening on here won't synchronize back. So depending on your situation, that might not be ideal. You might want them to both synchronize. So you can click down here. All changes made on this server will propagate to any server in the cluster that is linked. Synchronization is one way. Changes made on another will not propagate to the other unless it's synchronized. So if I leave this in standalone mode, that only the changes from here will be pushed to your other node. But this might not be ideal because if you want to have if you're setting up like separate sites here, then all those changes aren't going to push back over to the other one. So for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to synchronize both so that both servers are always talking to each other when they're making these DNS changes. So I'm going to synchronize it and I'm going to save it. All right. So now we're going to synchronize here. And if we go over here, these are synchronized. So I can refresh this here so you can see that. All right, and so you can see our little path diagram here. It's connected right here with that direct link. Same here, it's connected with a direct link. Okay, so now if we go to DNS Zone Manager, what you'll notice is your DNS zones, and again, this is a demo one, so ignore that. But you'll notice, and these are just all demo DNS zones I've set up, but all the zones from this server and the other server are on here now. And so same here, DNS zone. All the ones here are the same here. So now they're sharing DNS information. So whenever a new site's created, it's created through both. Both of them are be able to resolve either site. It's going to know where stuff is. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to set up that demo domain so you can kind of see how that works as well. So what I want to do is I'm going to go into my NameHero account and I'm going to grab a quick demo domain. Let's go to domains, my domains. I'm going to use one of my favorite, keydiets.com. Okay, so we're going to set this up inside of Web Host Manager. So we'll copy, and we're going to go to Create, New Account, and we're going to create Key Diets. Key Diets, generate a really strong password. I'm paranoid, so I just always copy it twice, use that password. I'm not going to go through like package creation and all that. I got plenty of videos out there on YouTube for that. So I'm just going to do like pretty standard stuff here. DNS settings. Okay, so we're going to see. This is the DNS servers for this node. So if we use these, this means that these are what we want to update our DNS, our domain to actually use. Now, since these are in a cluster, this information will be brought to here as well. So this tells us that this will tell our other server that this is where the site's located, and this is the record of truth, so to speak, to where they can actually correlate this information together. So what I want to do now is I'm going to copy and paste these. Now these are the default name servers. These are what are automatically set up if you order your VPS from us here at NameHero. We automatically set up your name servers just like this. These are white labeled to an extent that these don't go back to NameHero. So if you're like a web host out there and you want to be white labeled, they're just kind of it goes like a blank domain. So no one sees NameHero in that. We could set up a vanity name server, which means that we could use like Key Diets, and I'll get into that here in just a second. I want to start off with just using default here so I can show you how this works here. All right, so what I want to do is I want to go to my domain, and I want to go to name servers. If your domain's at GoDaddy or another provider, it probably looks similar to this. Go in, go to name servers, and change it. Now remember, when I change my website's name servers, one, it's going to take up to 24 hours to fully propagate across the internet. But two, it could make your site go down until it propagates across the world. Most often this happens like in 30 minutes to an hour in the United States. But some countries, depending on the ISP, this might take a little bit longer. But the big thing I want to get across is make sure if you have files you're wanting to migrate over, you want to make sure your website data is migrated before you change these if you have an active site, because if not, then people will go to a blank page. Okay, so what I'm going to do is copy here, paste here, NS2, all right. Change name servers, and we'll go ahead and create. Okay, so now it's created. I have Key Diets set up here. List accounts. Okay, so now I've got my username, Key Diets, my account set up, and I've changed my DNS. Now again, this should propagate within 30 minutes to 1 hour here in the United States. It could take up to 24 hours, so just always be mindful of that when you're messing with DNS. Now, so this is, let's call this node 1. If I go look at node 2, now, first thing I want to make very clear is if I go to list accounts, we didn't create a dual account or anything like that. And again, this is just a example domain here we have set up here. This is not a active site. Again, into here. What I want to do is show you this. Oops. You'll see here key diets. So you can see they share this information. They share their DNS information. DNS Zone Manager, key diets. So it's on both. So if I click Manage, and I click Manage in here, you can see these mirror each other. So this is node 1, the one we're on here. And if you go here, it also shows that traffic should go here to node 1. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to make this highly available. So to make the DNS system highly available. Now, the actual website's not going to be highly available, and we'll save that for another tutorial. But had the DNS service go off on the other one, I'll show you how to make sure this doesn't go down. So what you want to do here is we need to get our name servers from here. So we'll go to tweak settings. I'm sorry, basic. cPanel's changed up their interface so many times, I get a little messed up on where these go. Okay, so these are the DNS servers for the second one. So they use ns1.vps3a86.ovm.com. So what I can do is I can add another name server in here. So what I can do is go to add record, add name server record. My valid zone is keydiets.com. Boom. Save. Whoops. There we go. And we'll grab this second one here, and then I'll explain what it does here. Diets. I'm going to add that record here. Name server. It's got to be the same TTL. This is time to live, by the way. Paste. Save. Whoops. Oh, we got to refresh this here. Since I created it on here, it changed my serial. So let's just go back here. Diets.com. 86400. Name server. Fully quantified domain. Boom. Okay, so now I've got ns1.47220, so I'll just call this node 1. I got name servers for node 1, and I've got name servers for node 2. So now let's go back over here. Let's refresh my zone, manage. You can see my changes are the same. They're on both. Now one more step, we need to go over here, and we need to tell it that it can also use these. So basically, what DNS does specifically, and for those of you that's is a quick high-level tutorial on DNS. DNS is basically what resolves your domain. So when someone types in keydiets.com, it's actually accessing an IP address. But if we gave out IP addresses, for websites, it'd be really confusing, hard to remember all that. So instead, we have fully qualified domains. Like NameHero.com actually resolves to an IP. But when we register a domain here at NameHero or another provider, you input name servers, and that tells the domain registrar when someone types in keydiets.com to check these servers to resolve it. So it says, all right, here's the first name server. Check it and see if we can't resolve the IP address for keydiets.com. If this one's out, it'll check the second. If this one's out, I'll check the next. If this one's out, I'll check the next. We can also regionalize these, or global/regionalize these. If we have nodes, we could have DNS nodes set up in the US and UK, other countries, other parts of the world, if we want to do that. And so that way you have multiple worldwide highly available coverage. But again, that's a whole video for another time. So all these name servers in here will ensure that regardless which name server it calls, it's going to properly resolve keydiets.com. So it's saved successfully. Okay, so now we have everything set. List counts. Oops, sorry, wrong one. I'm going to get confused here if all these windows open up. I'm a little scared to click key diets because I don't think it's going to have time to propagate during this video, but I really want to show it, please. Oh, it does. It propagated. Sweet. So it's working now. So you can see that it's actually resolving now to this server because that's where the site is. Now, if this whole server goes kaplunk, unfortunately, the site's going to go down because the site's not over on this server. It's just the DNS that we made highly available. We didn't make the whole site highly available. That's a whole other tutorial for another time, not in this video. Now, the cool thing about this is, and the big powerful feature, is if I wanted to transfer key diets, so key diet starts getting a ton of traffic, and I have a bunch of, or this VM starting to get full, and I want to move it to this server here, I can simply transfer it over in real time. Let's demonstrate. If we go to cPanel's transfer tool, I can take this guy here. Got my SSH port. I have to temporarily enable password authentication. You always want to keep this off. However, you can enable it for quick tasks like this, but you want to leave this to a key. You're not going to set up keys, but for the purpose of the video, I'm just going to enable this. I also want to go to API token. Again, I don't like using my root password, right? We'll call this transfer. Now, because we are doing a full account transfer, I'm going to temporarily give a key for everything. I know I said earlier don't do this, but you're just doing a transfer, right, from your server to the other. We're going to revoke this. Make sure we revoke it. Today is the 22nd, so we'll just set revoke the 23rd. And then we can also, it's a good idea to limit it to this IP. Hopefully we won't run into access issues here. But I just want to be a little super careful here. Hopefully this will connect. We don't run into any issues. Save. Here's my key. Okay, I'll go to my transfer tool. All right, so I've got my node 1. I got my SSH port, and I've got my API key. Hopefully this will work here, this setup. We'll see. Yep. So access denied. Okay. And yes, the API didn't like that one. So 1 second here. I'm going to grab the root password and we go that route. 427770. That's the fun thing about live videos is sometimes we run into a couple issues and I don't want to spend all time troubleshooting this. So we'll use the actual root password. Password root 37980. And here we go. Now we're cooking with hot gas. Okay. So we can see here's key diets. So now remember, this is the second node. They share a common DNS zone. So I want to bring key diets over to this server. Let's just say that key diets is getting hosed with traffic right now. And this server, let's pretend that it's full of sites and it's starting to, bog down. So we need to get it out of here. And we need to get out of here quick and we don't want to cause downtime. So what we're going to do is we've input our root password and our host name for the other host, for the other VM, and we've put it in here, and we temporarily turned on SSH password off. And now I'm going to click here. Oh, and I've got one limit. Hold on 1 second. Just want to make sure I don't have anything here that's going to get overwritten. Manager. Okay. Just 1 second here. What I'm doing is I'm going to back up my site here and I'm going to crush this one. Okay, here's my backup. we got to kill this off. These are single account licenses, so they only allow for one cPanel account. You know, if you're familiar with cPanel, they changed up their license agreements a couple years ago, and so by default we have the one cPanel solo license at NameHero, and you can upgrade to however many you need. But since cPanel changed their pricing structure, it's always smart just to buy the amount of licenses you actually need. And for demo purposes, I just have one on here. All right, removed. Okay, now I'll rescan it. Let's take a second while this is removed. Successfully removed. All right, now let's bring key diets over to this other one. Copy. Now there's a bunch of options in Transfer Tool, but again, this video is not about transferring a website. I want to show how DNS can save your site from going down when you're doing a transfer. So it's pulling key diets from the other server. So now if I go over here, server A, we'll call it, and I list accounts, notice it's suspended. That's because we've migrated to the other one. cPanel automatically suspended it, so all the traffic proxies to your second server. So let's go to my new one, list accounts, and you can see there's key diets. So now here's the moment of truth. It resolves. So you can see we just moved key diets from node A over to our second node, and there's no downtime. Let's go look at the DNS. DNS zone. DNS zone manager. Key diets, manage. So you can see now we have the IP address of our second node is being resolved in the DNS cluster. If I go to my node A, my other node, and I go to DNS zone, DNS zone manager, manage, you'll see I also have the new IP address. So this is a great, quick, easy way to move sites from one to another node without any downtime, without any real complicated like full server migrations, because it simply picks up that DNS zone, it brings it over to the other, drops it down. We easily use the cPanel transfer tool to bring our site over. So if I'm a webmaster out there and I'm getting tons of traffic on a specific site, I spin up another VM in real time, to get it off. I set up the DNS cluster. I can easily move that site over. And now key diets is not bogging down my other server. It's easily running on the second node, and I've got this highly available DNS cluster set up. So this is a great way to move stuff around. For those of you that are like reselling web hosting specifically, this can be a very good and powerful feature. So you can start your business with a smaller VM. As you start to get more customers and your demand increases, you can scale those up, but you can also add more VMs into the mix. So when I say VM, I also mean VPS. VPS, VM, Cloud VPS, all those terms are interchangeable. But once again, I'm just using two of these KCDC 2 gig VPSs here at NameHero with cPanel Web Host Manager. Last thing here. For key diets, let's say that I wanted to create vanity name servers. If I wanted to create custom name servers for key diets, I can certainly do that if I'd like. I could just set those up inside of here. Let's see. So right now I'm using 133. So if I wanted to set up a vanity name server, I could add a record, NS. I wanted to add an A record for NS1, save. Now for my second one, I'm going to add the IP address of the other server. So let's go back over here. Whoops, actually I want this one here. So I'm back on server 1. And we'll add this one. Save record. Okay, so what I did just now is I added A records for keydiets.com so it can have its own private name servers. Those of you that are web hosts, you might want to do this so people see, they don't see a node VM and all that stuff. Even though it's white labeled, they see your actual domain. So NS1 goes to our server A, NS2 goes to server B. Now, since we've created these records, this basically means this is going to resolve, but now we have to do an extra step. We have to actually go register these at our domain provider, mine being NameHero. So let's go to manager a domain, right here. And let's go to name servers, register, private name servers. You'd think it's my first time doing that. Now, I might have one set up already because this is a demo domain, but let's see. Let's make sure I got that right. Yep, NS1 is going to be the 133 for crying out loud. Actually, let's just add the NS2 first. Ah, got it. Okay, and we'll add the NS1 there. Now, registering a name server, this is very important because even though we created A records, and there's chances are that things would still work with just an A record, but it's not going to be consistent. You'll run into these issues that make you want to bang your head against the wall because it'll work sometimes and sometimes it won't. You need to register your name servers at your domain provider. And that's why, at NameHero, I always recommend customers either register or transfer their domain to us because our team can do this for you, and you can also follow these videos to do it. All the providers out there are different. I know GoDaddy, they're notorious for changing up their interface on how you register name servers, and you can't use their API to do it. So anyways, take that for however you wish for your specific case. But if you want to use those private vanity name servers, they have to be registered on your actual domain registrar and as well as set up on your server. Now, if I go to server B, my second one, you'll notice the same changes are reflected here. So now if we want to use these for key diets, we got to go back here and we go to name servers. Now again, if I go messing with my name servers, it's going to cause issues with live traffic. So I want to really be careful about that, especially since I've changed them already once. So you probably want to do this at night if you're going to change these up. Keep changing them up. Or if you're doing it on a live site, please be very careful. Okay, so I'm changing these to that vanity key diet, keydiet.com. What key diets? Please tell me I didn't set all that up wrong. Key diets looks good. Okay, keydiets.com, change name servers. And bear with me if you're following along because this isn't the final step here. There we go, there they saved. All right, NS1 and 2. Okay, so now we need to go back into here. Let me make sure I've got the refresh zone. Key diets, manage. Okay, so now I'm not using these anymore. So I got to change this up. I got to change this to ns1.keydiets.com. If you don't edit these here, if you edit those name servers and you don't edit them in your zone manager, you're going to get some real nasty errors. So please make sure you do that. Save. Let's get down here. You can still leave these here. No harm in here. You can always go back to those if you need. But we just want to go down here and make sure we do have those records correct. And we want to modify these. That's right. I'm going to go here. We want to modify these to whatever we're using. So now we decide we're going to use ns1.keydiets.com. Copy it. Save. Okay, now we want to crush these because remember, we're not going to use these anymore. We set up a vanity. Delete, delete. All right, now we're all set. Now, I know better on live videos than to doing this, but I'm going to do it anyways. Don't want that, I want this. Paste. Haha. So DNSHero.com, it's a free tool provided by us here at NameHero, and this lets you test your DNS. So everything we just did, it's going to make sure it's set up correctly. So you can see all good. If we see red on this page, then we need to start looking at our steps, kind of tracing backwards here and kind of refollow this tutorial, because this will show us, if we made a mistake, if we forgot to update something, it's going to yell at us here. It's going to show red, and of course our support team standing by to help you out and say, hey, we'll get this resolved. But the easiest way to check this is just going to DNSHero.com and making sure you see no red. Because again, since we made changes to the DNS, you can see it's still loading on my end here, but there's a chance, if you visited maybe on your mobile phone or another computer in the next room, or maybe you're at your office or whatnot, that things don't load up properly because we did do all those DNS changes. That's why we have DNSHero, because it's going to check this information in real time, and if there's anything wrong, it's going to be in red. So if you're not seeing any red here and your site is in fact set up and it's on the new server and it's not suspended, and you followed everything along here, then most likely you'll just have to wait for that DNS to propagate. If it takes longer than 24 hours, of course, hit up our support and we can look at it, or if you're at another provider, hit up their support. But as long as you have all white here, you are good. If you have red, you need to look into it. If you have yellow, you probably need to check that out too. But that's how it's done. That's what we did in this video. Is we took two VPSs, Hero 2 gigabyte VPS. We clustered them together. So we made the DNS highly available. We didn't make the entire VM highly available. We just made the DNS. This is because it allows us to easily move websites or accounts from one server to the next without causing any downtime or interruption to the actual traffic to the site. Perfect situation for scaling up during a bunch of high traffic, specifically Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I used to own a pro wrestling website back in the days of WrestleMania. We'd really have to scale up our servers. This is how that's done. And then the last bit of this is I wanted to use my own name servers and not the ones provided. So that's what I set up inside of here so I could do that. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the YouTube comments down here. I really do try to get back to as much of those as quickly as I can, just depending on the day and the week. Sometimes things get busier. If you're a customer at NameHero, please don't leave support issues there because you're not going to get the support that we're known for. Make sure that you're hitting us up on live chat or ticket for support issues if you are at NameHero. But if you do have a general question or some feedback, please leave it down there in the comment box. I certainly do appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up on this video. Maybe you're banging your head against the wall trying to figure out DNS clustering with cPanel, or how you can move your sites around from one VPS or another. If this video helped you out, I certainly do appreciate that thumbs up. Also, go ahead and mash that subscribe button because I've got a lot more videos I want to do, not just on this topic, but on high availability in general. We've beefed up our infrastructure big time here at NameHero, and have got all kinds of cool new features that we're releasing and new products around our VPSs. And I want to make sure that you are the first to know about them. As well as, these tutorials aren't just all specific to us here at NameHero, and so they might help you with something else that you want to solve. One of my favorite areas of web hosting is the ability to scale a website, from the beginning days of launch all the way up until, being a tremendous enterprise. So if that kind of describes you, if you have a popular website, I'm really confident you'll see some content coming out that will really help you out and help you scale your sites, help you scale your customers without spending a ton of money, without spending thousands of dollars you would at AWS to scale and high availability. So thanks so much for watching and using us here at NameHero.com.